What up? Welcome to another episode of The Butler Did It. I'm your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. Thank you so kindly for being here. Listen, this week we got a really cool show. We're doing something a little different. Well, not really different. The subject matter is a bit different. I haven't talked about any like nerd stuff on this show in a while, man. So I got my boys, Sin Engage from the legendary Loading Snacks, man. Loading Snacks, man. Check them out on YouTube. Listen, they are amazing. They've been on the show before. You know what it is, man. All things geek culture, pop culture, they are experts on. Very happy to have them on the show this week because this week I'm talking about Marvel, all right, the MCU. Why am I talking about the MCU on this show? Well, let me be honest. For me, the MCU has always been a way that I kind of cut loose. It's something I've enjoyed for years. I've loved comic books for years. I've always been a big comic book fan. I've always been a big Marvel fan. I love the X-Men. I love fantasy, Game of Thrones, things like that, right? I'm really into all of that. And for me, it's something I watch when I want to kind of like forget about all the real world stuff. Yeah, the stories sometimes tap into the real world, right? And that's the beauty of great art, but really we watch these things as a release, as something to help you forget about all the crap in the world. And there's a lot of crap in the world, and the MCU for 10 plus years really served as a great escape for all of us. But recently there's been a lot of drama around the MCU. People have seen the turn on it, and it upsets me. Okay, it upsets me, and it sometimes feels like this thing I love, it's like an agenda to take it away. Now I know that's silly and I know that's probably not true. People are probably just kind of, growing out of it. It's been 10 plus years. Our taste changed, things like that. But it's still interesting to me what's happening with the MCU, all the drama around the MCU, things with John Majors, um, things around the upcoming movie, The Marvels, all sorts of stuff. Forewarning, I am going to talk about John Majors on this episode. Have not talked about John Majors on this show yet, and the John Majors situation, what's going on with him and his allegations and all of the stuff. I haven't addressed that on this show yet because honestly, I haven't really found the words to do it yet. I will address John Majors in a more detailed way in regards to his case. But on this show, I will not. But I just want to give people that warning that we will be talking about John Majors on this show in full context of Marvel and how his case affects the studio and the brand. Okay, I just want to give you that, guys, that warning. I know a lot of people, you may hear it and go, well, why wouldn't y'all just kind of talk about, because we're only really talking about it when it comes to Marvel. I will talk about John Majors in the case and the person very, very soon. Very, very soon. Okay. But yes, we talked about Marvel on this episode. We talked about all the things that's going on, why there's a lot of drama around it, and how we can just enjoy art and how we can separate art from the critics, or should we separate art from the critiques of art? Let's jump right into it. Sin, Gage, what up?
What's good, brother? What's good?
Cooling, man. I've been wanting to have this MCU conversation for a while, even before that Variety, just bombshell article drop. I really, really wanted to talk about what's going on in MCU, why it feels like it's not as hot as it used to be, and all of it, man. So let's just jump right into it. First and foremost, let me just ask the broad question. What are you all engaged? I'll start with you, bro. What are your overall thoughts of the MCU right now, post Endgame?
Um, I think that the MCU is in flux. Is I think honestly probably the best way to say it. I think that um, when you have the kind of success that they've had, it is always harder to do that again, right? To make it happen again. And I think that they had some good ideas in place. Well, let's take what we're doing with the movies. Let's do it in TV. Let's continue this. Let's do the Jay-Z thing and always be in their ear. Let's always be on radio, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually what happens is that begins to get a bit watered down / oversaturated. And when you combine that, not just with what Disney is doing and how well they are or aren't doing that, but with everybody else chasing their pattern.
Yeah.
Right now, it all seems the same. It all sounds the same, and everybody wants to do it. So even if you're not doing superheroes, everybody wants a cinematic universe, right? Everybody wants everything to be tied to everything. And so I think, that I think that the MCU is in a state of flux. It's the same thing that happens in comic books. Like they have something that happens. It doesn't start off great. It gets better and better. The big thing happens. And then it's like, well, what do we do now? You kind of go back to square one, and we're back at square one, right? The movies are still doing crazy numbers.
Right.
They're not necessarily beating their old numbers, right? But everybody's already aware.
Yeah.
So it's, I just think they're in a state of flux, and I think they're trying to fix that currently.
Yeah, Sam, I'm about to come to you, but I just wanted to comment on that because I agree with that, and I also think that it's more of the TV that's the failure than the movies, right? If you want to look at the movies that's come out since Endgame, you're talking about 2 bad movies, basically. 2 movies that people just did not like. One people kind of liked or were a little indifferent on, and that's Eternals. And then one in Ant-Man that is just like was a failure in many people's eyes. We'll see what happens.
What about Thor? Was Thor?
I forgot about and Thor. So 3. Okay. And like I said, I'm not trying to downplay that. I'm just saying the movies, it was like that with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You had your good ones and you had your blah ones, whatever. We kind of forget about them. To me, it's the television, and that represents the oversaturation, represents the kind of greedy portion of it, and really offers the most different stuff that we're going to get to in a moment. But Sen, just let me know what you think about what Gage said. Where are you with the MCU right now? Do you think it's struggling? Is it in shambles, as everyone is saying?
No, I don't think it's in shambles. I think flux is a good word that Gage used to describe it. I think people got to remember that we've come off of Endgame. That took a little over 10 years to build all the way up to get to that big final conclusion. Now we're back at the bottom, starting over, and we have to get new people to come in and play new characters because everybody's going to age out. People are forgetting that. It's going to take time to get back to Endgame. You just got to let it cook. And unfortunately, they are running into a lot of problems right now between Jonathan Majors, like you said, between the pandemic, between the writer strike and the actor strike. They're getting hit from all sides right now, and it looks like they're trying to do their best to somehow get the ship back on course. You know what I mean? And keep pushing forward. But yeah, so far that's just me. That's how I feel.
Well, let's just get to the biggest issue, in my opinion. Let's just jump right into it. You brought up John Majors, and we all know what's going on with John Majors in his case. I have yet to talk about John Majors' case on this show, and I've actually had some people even ask me why I haven't talked about John Majors in his case, and frankly, I haven't talked about it because it's complicated. And I'm gonna just be honest, it's complicated. There's he hasn't stood trial yet. And everything that comes out, his camp puts out something and it feels believable. And then the prosecution puts out something and it's like, ooh, okay, so we don't know. All right. So that's my stance on just him right now. I promise I will talk about him and what I think about what might had happened on another show. But just when it comes to the MCU and the character of Kang being played by an actor that's in so much turmoil right now. Do you think that if you're the studio, do you move on with John Majors? Gage, I'll start with you. Do you move on with John Majors? Do you think that part of the problem, solving the problem, would be to either move on from the character Kang or recast Kang?
I don't think you can. Well, all right, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of where the MCU is now, which I just think has so much to do with the genius that is Kevin Feige, is that they can technically do whatever they want. So, can they when we talked about recasting T'Challa, that was not a doable thing. You can't really do that, right? Okay, because T'Challa and the Black Panther, they not Aunt Viv. You can't just put somebody else
Yeah.
in the role, right? That's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. They're not
They've
War
done it.
Machine
They
either.
was it,
Yeah,
right? We did it with
yeah,
Rhodey. We recast Rhodey. He went from light
yeah.
skin to dark skin. You know what I mean? Like,
And Skitty. Yeah,
yeah, this is very different.
yeah.
However, we're at a place in the MCU where the multiverse is real. We're going to different timelines. If Loki can be a girl, Kang can
Right.
certainly look like a different person. Right? So they have part of what I feel like they're doing is I actually think that they are writing in options for themselves. That's what I think is happening.
Yeah.
Not only that, and look, no spoilers, but they're also kind of prepping to have somebody like Loki who, like Sin and I talked about this the other night. Tom Hiddleston is like the only person who's really remaining from that original run of Avengers movies that is young enough and can still play the role that he's in and is still a familiar face. Right? And so it really looks like they're leaning very specific directions with him. And if the Jonathan Majors thing does not work out in his favor, and even if it does legally, but doesn't in terms of optics for Disney is in a position to have the lady who's playing Ravonna Renslayer just turn out to be a Kang variant, and now she's you know what I mean? Like there are so many directions that they can go with it that I think that I honestly think they're safe. And I don't think it really. If I'm them, I wouldn't let go of Jonathan Majors just yet because if it comes out that he's on the up and up and he looks good coming out of it, that could do bananas numbers for them. If it turns out bad, they're already in a good position, I think, to just be like, oh yeah, by the way, flip this switch. This is who it is. You know what I mean? I think that's what I think. You know what I mean? Oh, that was this universe. That's where I think they are.
Also, I think from outside, instead of, let me know what you think about this, bro. Like from the outside, just from, because I understand exactly what you're saying from a narrative standpoint, like Renslayer, someone could be. I also think from the outside, if they choose to recast, I think you're at a point now where people would completely understand, like, you kind of had to recast, dude. Like, all right, Damson Idris is King the Conqueror now. John Boyega is King the Conqueror now. We get it. Like, we from outside of a comic book and just entertainment aspect, we understand why you had to do what you had to do. I think that I think it would break most people's hearts to see it happen. Because if you're just looking at John Boyega, the actor, and the job he's doing as King the Conqueror is excellent. Even in a bad movie like Ant-Man, excellent job, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a shame. But I do think, Sen, that it's like, yes, they are setting themselves up for success because they're smart people. And part of the problem was they took the power away from the smart people for a couple of years and just sort of handed it back to them. That's the inside baseball stuff that happened with like Kevin Feige losing power, Bob Chapek taking over.
If I could just kind of just step in that. Here's the other thing about the optics, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep in mind that Marvel and Disney are in a very weird set of circumstances with what's going on with Jonathan Majors simply because of what happened with Ezra Miller on the DC side. Right?
Yes.
So if they are to recast John Majors based on where he is now, there is a public perception of people that are gonna be like, oh, so the black man gets blah blah blah, and they just swap him out, put somebody else in. But this dude can go off, get arrested multiple times, can clearly assault people. It's on film, blah, blah. Like, there's no, you know what I mean? Like, there's no question about what Ezra Miller's behavior has been like. Warner Brothers and DC kept him, put the movie out anyway, blah, 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 right? So I think that also puts them in an awkward position where they kind of need to see how things play out so that they have the best optics for themselves from a business standpoint before they make a decision like that.
For sure. I think I think that they are. I think that they were in a lose-lose situation, and they're getting themselves into a more. The chessboard is working out for them now. Things that you described, and just the public. Like again, in the beginning, the perception was, and I think for a lot of people still is, like, dude got set up. I think that was like the perception for a lot of people. Like, dude got set up. I'm not saying that's what. I'm just saying it's the perception.
Right.
People kind of felt like, come on, man. This is like, just last week we were praising him for wearing, like pink shirts. Now he's the worst guy in the world. this, that, and another. A lot of people want to believe that he's innocent. I think that as time goes on, I think there's still a fair amount of people that do believe he is, but are wondering why this is still a thing, right? And if it does end up being a thing, as you said, and that, like I mentioned earlier, I do think that they'll have the opportunity to just be like, "Look, it is what it is, man. We love him, but we can't do what we gotta do." But if it doesn't, if it turns out to be a quick trial and it's like, "Yo, come on, man, then you keep them and it's all good." I think that's where they get into more of a win-win situation. But I do agree with you. They had a lot of things going on with them, and the Ezra Miller point is an excellent point because you have a guy there who's accused of multiple heinous things and got to do his movie. Got to do their movie, got to be the Flash, got to have that out, made the money, this and another. Why doesn't John Majors get the same opportunity? I'm sure many people would argue that. There's also another side of people that are like, why are they aligning themselves with someone that's accused of something?
Well, there's also the other racial issue involved in that because there's a racial issue involved in his trial on top of that. So again, it's one
that's old as time.
Super careful.
They have to be very, very careful. Yeah.
I like him as Kang. I would like to see him stay around. He does a great job, in my opinion, as Kang.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Gage. You keep it you keep your backup plan in the tuck, and you just get to see how it's playing out. And then if you got to do it, we get it. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. But for right now, just keep your hand on him right now. Just keep your eye on it.
You don't have to do anything right now. Honestly, you don't. From Marvel's standpoint, they don't have to do anything. I think I agree with they couldn't recast T'Challa. I 100% agree with that. We had this conversation a couple of years back. Didn't see that one. Go back. It's right on the timeline. It was a great conversation. But I still say that they painted themselves in a corner very quickly by going, hey, we never want to, because they didn't want to look a certain way, right? With this one, I think they kind of even learned from that. Two totally different situations, obviously, but they learned from, we don't have to make a quick decision here. That's just, you know what? Because I think that's what's got them in trouble, period, is making quick decisions. Instead of going back and saying, hey, Daredevil isn't working. Let's go back and reshoot this because we have the money to do it and it's not working. This project isn't working. We shouldn't push it up 4 or 5 months without having the special effects ready, without having the director ready, having the direction of the MCU ready, right? So I think this would be in a really serious situation and not just a situation where it's like, oh, we want to tell a good story, but it's a man's life and it's a reputation of your organization at play here, on the line here, then you take your time and you just do it right. You don't have to, Loki's on, why destroy your television show right now by announcing you're going to fire this man? Exactly. Take your time, see what's going to happen, and then make the best decision for business at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's great.
Let me ask this, though. One more question on John Majors, then we'll move on. Being that Marvel hasn't really dealt with anything like this for the first 10 years of the MCU, they really didn't have any negative press. I can't think of one thing that was like overly negative, especially not on this level, one of the actors being accused of a crime. I can't think of anything. Do you think that it just took them a minute to really get used to having the negativity around their brand for the first time ever, and then just to couple that with the Variety article and the things we've heard about the MCU, the special effects guys, ladies and gentlemen, complaining, all of the things we've heard. Do you think that they just were really thrown off by like negative press for the first time in their decade plus run?
I was gonna say I would throw them for a loop. I can say I would, you know what I'm saying? Not, like I said, not having to deal with it, and you're dealing with everything else, stuff like I mentioned before, on top of it. Then you have this thrown into your lap. I can see where the higher ups are like, "Hold up, we gotta come together and figure this whole thing out." Yeah. I think it threw them for a little bit of a loop, but it's Disney. They got a lot of people in the right places, so you know they'll take care of it. Yeah, shock for a quick second.
I just think that but look, I think that Disney / Marvel is dealing with a little bit of hubris, right? Because they, for a long time, it's like, we can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Like pretty much everything we touch is golden. And again, even the movies that people say they don't like when people go back and they're like, Thor: The Dark World was the worst of all the MCU movies, but that joint made hundreds of millions.
Money.
Like that joint made so much money, right?
Yeah.
So it's
They're always
it's
gonna make
that
money.
Yeah.
it's that like people say they didn't like it, but it was financially successful. Like it was successful.
Right.
Like people went to see it. So
Right.
I think that in a certain way, it's a full circle in that in sort of a reboot of what the MCU is and kind of starting over.
Mm-hmm.
They had to kind of take that same kind of chance when they did their first Iron Man film, right? Because Robert Downey Jr. was somebody with a checkered past who had just dealt with a lot of stuff, and they took a chance on him being not just the face of that movie, but ending up being the face of the MCU. And where they are when we talk about them being in a state of flux and dealing with the difference between somebody like Jonathan Majors and where they have been is that almost everybody in the MCU was like a B tier, maybe C tier. Like even if they've been in stuff like none of them had ever had Marvel level success. Like none of them. Right? Yeah. So it didn't matter to me if they were Oscar winners, if they none of them had that kind of success. And Disney had not seen that kind of success. Marvel had never had that kind of success. And when you're on that kind of a roll, when something like this happens and you start to think, well, we're just going to do TV the way we think we should do TV, and we're not going to do it the way people normally do TV because we're Marvel. And we changed the movie industry. Why can't we change the TV industry, right? And streaming services are really kind of new still to this TV thing. Let's just do it this way, right? So they tried to change it, and it didn't work. So they just go back to the drawing board because technically they can afford to lose the money.
Yeah. You know and yeah. Sorry, because that's a great point about it's a reset, and it's a reset that had to happen. You know, none of the movies are really losing money. In fact, people are kind of panicking over the Marvels because it's tracking to make $80 million instead of $200 million. Like, okay.
And the fact that it's like the shortest length of any of their films so far.
Yeah. And there's some panic happening there. Some of the rumors I'm hearing about the Marvels are kind of like, I get it. Like, you're going to throw this dude in at the end of the, okay, you're hinting at certain stuff that makes me very happy. Y'all know me and y'all know what I love. So it makes me very happy, but I also get how that is like, that's just, I can see that they are, I actually think it's a good thing, just to speak about the MCU as a whole, right? I actually think it's a good thing that they've kind of been pushed a little bit, and they've kind of been like, because you're right about that formula. In fact, they would take a C-list character or a B-list character, turn them into an A-list character. They take a C-list or B-list actor, turn them to an A-list actor, and they would surround them usually with A-list actors as side characters, right? Yeah. Jeff Bridges and all these type of people who are like, Academy Award winners, just kind of playing like small roles around this character, and that worked for a very long time.
You make Robert Redford a villain.
I was just about to bring him up,
like
Robert Redford, Tommy Lee Jones.
Again, because they had that kind of power, they had that kind of money, they're Disney and they Marvel, right? So
and they could.
For all of the actors that were in those kinds of movies, even the people who were like, now people are getting back to this, like, movies are important, and like, Scorsese, that's not cinema, whatever. Yeah. But all these actors and actresses who he would put in his movies are making way more money doing what they're doing right? And you could talk about them wanting to maybe go do plays or go do something other than what they're doing, but everybody's following that formula. If it's not for Marvel, Fast and the Furious doesn't exist anymore because they became superhero movies. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they
Jurassic Park. Yeah,
Jurassic
Planet Apes, Jurassic Park, because Godzilla.
They became superhero movies. Like, people wanted to see the big and the crazy and the spectacular and the explosions and all that kind of stuff. And to me, it made movies like your Pirates of the Caribbean, by the time they get to the third or fourth, which is also a Disney thing, less eventful.
Right?
Not enough crazy happened. So I just think they, the TV thing, that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, because I want to get there, because I think that the TV thing is really what I think hurt the MCU. Most of the special effects complaints that come from the television. Except for Ant-Man, obviously that was the big one where people were kind of like, yo, we were rushed and overworked, and it got ugly. In fact, the John Majors thing kind of came from the Ant-Man thing. That's again a whole nother issue. Ant-Man seems to be like their biggest, nastiest project they probably ever done in terms of perception, right? Okay, cool. But the television, to me, represents a lot of the false narratives about the MCU in terms of what's wrong with it, and represents a lot of the issues with the MCU, right? You got a lot of incomplete projects. You got a couple of cool ones we've talked about together, WandaVision and things like that, right? But that was years ago at this point, right? Loki is really good. But then you have She-Hulk, which wasn't received very well. You have the Nick Fury jump that just came out, Secret Invasion, that was not received very well. And then you got a bunch of kind of meh projects in between it. Just kind of like, okay, that was cool, but I kind of forgot that even happened. Hawkeye, you have things that should have been excellent, but were really good, like Moon Knight, right? So it's a mixed bag there. But I do want to throw something at you fellas that I've heard, not only just with the TV projects, but with a project like Wakanda Forever, right? This whole woke thing, people accusing the MCU of being overly woke, being too trying. This is what people are saying, forcing the issue with diversity, making a female version of the superhero, right? Ironheart, Jane Foster. You get where I'm trying to go here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say straight up, I think that's crap, right? Like, I don't think diversity is hurting the MCU. Why do you think people are going there, though? Why do you think that people are, seem to be upset by Shuri being the Black Panther, or there being the new female Hawkeye, or the female Iron Man, or the female Incredible Hulk?
They don't read comics, so they don't know that these are actual real people and not just a female Hawkeye and stuff like that. Right. These are actual real. Yes, that's like you said, Ironheart. Like, yeah, she's a black girl that likes Tony Stark and made her own suit. Like, that's just, it's not replacing Tony Stark. It's a completely different person, and people just want to find something to hate about. That's people just miserable. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Sin is right. You know what I mean? I think you're right too, right? That I would disagree that diversity is hurting them as a whole. What I will say is that this is not something that Marvel didn't hear or hasn't heard when they did these same things in the comics.
In the comic books, yeah.
You know what I mean? And the truth of the matter is, some of these characters are so old that they were created under, like,
sexist.
You know what I mean?
She-Hulk was like a Playboy model almost. Yeah.
Like, there certainly have been some of those things that, where those characters come from initially. I think the big difference here is that in the comics, when you introduce a new character that is a black version, a female version, an alternate version, or whatever, that version more often than not also still does not replace the original version. Also, let's say that version dies in the comic. Comics are soap operas. That person comes back to life. Like, that's just how, what I mean, stuff works. The difference with this is that you're doing movies with actual live actors, and people are aging out of those roles, right? So you can't really bring Robert Downey Jr. back. You can't really keep using, these characters who just
Mark Ruffalo
15 years ago looked very different than they do now, right? And are expected to do the same kind of action roles and so forth or whatever. So now it does feel like you're replacing them with characters who are just other versions of them that are a girl,
black woman, a black man, exactly. A Muslim girl, yeah.
I do think that feels more true within the MCU than it does anywhere else where they do it, because, to be honest, in this case, it kind of is. These actors and actresses are being replaced with new versions of them, younger versions of them, so that Marvel can introduce new characters, because you can't keep doing Captain America movies with him. So, all right, let's move on to somebody else. You can't do any more Iron Man movies. He's too old to keep playing the role. So I think, in all honesty, a lot of it is warranted. You know, like I do think that a lot of that fear is warranted. I just think that it's misplaced in terms of them being angry because they've replaced them with somebody who doesn't look like the original person.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because the issue I have is the diversity part, not the replacing part. You know, I completely understand. Somebody made a point on TikTok. It was Straw Hat. Straw Hat made a great point about how people probably started with the MCU. It's different for us. We are grown men, and we were grown men when the MCU started, right? But if you were 10 when the MCU started, and then you were in grad school when it ended, you grew up with these people and this same thing. Us who are 90s comic book readers, we know there's different versions and this, that, another. We understand that. So when it changes, it doesn't hit us as hard. I bring up Wakanda Forever because I got into a big debate, almost argument with some friends of mine about Shuri being the Black Panther, right? And I tried, it's, the comic books and this, that, and another. And I even tried to hit with the real world reason, which is like, the cast literally asked Marvel not to put them in front of a new dude playing T'Challa. They asked. They said they can't do it. The director, all of them said, in the future, sure. Right now, we cannot stand in front of someone and pretend like that's Chadwick is going. We can't do it. And none of it mattered because it was a Black woman playing a character that they beloved, right? So I don't want to just even put this just on white people because this was Black men that were like, I can't handle it. I also think that part of the reason the Marvels isn't tracking as well as it could it's coming at a terrible time off of two bad movies, not counting Guardians, right? And people kind of put Guardians in its own little bucket. That was a James Gunn thing. It wasn't a Marvel. That's how some people chose to look at it, right? Bad TV shows other than Loki. It's kind of set up for failure. But I do think some of it is because of the three features, the three people that are featured in the film. One has been unpopular since she took the role. Okay, talking about Brie Larson, Captain Marvel. People loved Miss Marvel, but the show was not highly rated. People didn't watch it and then put it on Hulu just to get some ratings for the show. And then Monica Rambeau, yes, a side character from WandaVision, but on the surface, you see a Black woman, a Muslim girl, and a white woman. Mm-hmm. Why am I going? A lot of people are. I see it on Twitter. Why I want to see that movie? I'm not interested in these characters, and I do wonder, like, does that fall into that? The diversity is too different for me right now. It happened too quick for some of the audience, And if you think about it. It happened in Star Wars. It happened in Star Wars with certain diverse characters. The first trailer for The Force Awakens, the first person you see is a Black man pop up in a stormtrooper. I was working for BuzzFeed at the time, and I wrote about this. There were people on fire over the fact that a stormtrooper was a Black man.
Right. Well, and again, dumb. But if you know that stormtroopers are all supposed to be clones, Slim can't be Black. Like that's just not like that's what I mean. Like if you know that, right? Yeah. So a lot of back and forth and a lot of rhetoric about it. You know what I mean? And like again, squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So a lot of times it's the vocal minority that speaks up and is heard and is very loud and so forth, and that's what it is. Yeah. Look, I think The Marvels is actually probably going to be a pretty decent movie. I think it's going to be a fun movie. I think it's going to be a good time. Yeah. I like all three actresses. I'm not a huge fan of Captain Marvel as she exists in the movies. Right. Though, when she showed up and put paws on Thanos, I was like, yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you said yourself that, like, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel wasn't all that well received.
Yes.
And here's the thing. She kind of came out of nowhere. So the difference, a lot of the difference in what is happening with the MCU right now that is different from what we got over 10 years was a very slow introduction. Here's a character. Here's two movies. Here's another character that has their own movie.
Yeah.
And then you get like a little Easter egg that they might exist in the same universe, right? And you had Phil Coulson just kind of tying it all together, right? And it took a lot of movies before we saw them all in a movie together.
Yes.
Right? And you're introducing them slowly over time. These are characters that are coming into a world where we know these characters, and these people are just showing up, right? Yeah. And so you immediately just go, here's a team. have the Eternals. Here's a team.
Right.
Have the Guardians.
Yeah.
Here's a person who's more powerful than anybody you've seen in the entire MCU. She just shows up. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, where's she been? Right? Like
Yeah.
it just so a lot of the ways that they're doing it are very different from the way we were introduced to it, and we were very slowly kind of weaned into what it is.
Yeah.
But also combine the start of them really moving into TV and what these last few movies were and so forth with what happened during 2020 and throughout the pandemic, right? That like the stuff we got just in that moment was stuff that was written, and most of it was shot and done and edited before that happened, right? And almost everything that we have gotten since these phases started have been on the back end of dealing with people working from home and special effects happening at home and people being sent home in the middle of shooting and people getting sick and having to do reshoots. And so all of those things, Marvel has a very special eye on them, because when it happens in another movie, that movie's not part of a series of movies that's already 20 movies deep.
Yeah.
Right? And the TV shows that they're putting out are not part of something that is part of a movie that is, you know, however many episodes deep, right? If CSI, whatever version of CSI you're watching, was affected by those same things, it didn't hit as hard, right? But it certainly hurt them. It doesn't have the same spotlight because it's not as big and it's not as boisterous. And so it's not as noticeable. That's a lot of what I think the other part of what's happening to Marvel is that we are still in flux, and we were just getting to a point where, like, now if you look at Loki, right, we're just getting to a point where it's like, yo, all right, we might be back. And then what happens? Writer strike, actor strike. Guess what we can ready do? We can ready go right back into, you know what I mean?
I'm about to say, because everybody's getting all excited about Deadpool, and you see Wolverine in the suit and all this, and that movie was supposed to come out in the spring, I believe, and it ain't. They just, the SAG just put out today, just hours ago, just like 2 hours ago. Yeah, we don't like the offer they gave, and we'll let y'all know what's going to happen. So all this hope that they were going to get back to work within a week or two, who knows, right? So you're absolutely right. And one more real world issue I want to bring up before we just kind of nerd out about like what we think about the MCU, what could happen, and Kang and all this type of stuff, right? I do think, because we've talked about Martin Scorsese a couple of times, we kind of talked about like the critiques is coming from the MCU, right? I do think that's a part of it, right? I mentioned that the kid that was 10 and now he's in his mid-20s, right? And he's grown up, right? I think this is something that happened with Star Wars. I think it's something that Star Wars kind of has to admit to themselves at some point. We ain't talking about Star Wars, but I just got to say this. At some point, Star Wars is going to have to decide on a tone and go with it, right? And some of the audience is going to have to understand that that thing they watched when they were 8, 9 years old, that gave them that magical feeling, you can't get it again. You're not going to get that feeling. You're not going to want to be Luke Skywalker. You're not going to want to be Anakin Skywalker. You're grown now, so the tone, the studio has to figure out the tone, right? Because the audience is older now. A lot of them just want Andor. They don't want, Ahsoka necessarily, right? That's right. Okay. Same thing with the MCU, and I think that the MCU is starting to do it, right? They're starting to say when they were great, when they were at their best, is when they were making genre films within the larger genre, right? A spy thriller, a heist movie, right? You can watch these movies, and even outside of the MCU, movies like Logan and stuff like that, you felt like I've said this 100 times, like I've said it on y'all show, it could have been a movie about anything, but it just happens to be a movie about Logan. It just happens to be a movie about Captain America. It just happens to be a movie about Ant-Man, right? I think that they lost that just a little bit. They just became comic book movies, right? And that opened up the door for Scorsese to really jump in and just go, this is just a carnival ride, and this is a cinema, and this, that. And people that were losing to the MCU, right, and kind of are envious of the MCU, now have the opportunity to pick at the carcass and go, see, this is crap. Come see my movie. My movie's smart. This is stupid. My movie's going to challenge you. This doesn't challenge you, right? So I think I was saying earlier, I think it's a great opportunity for the MCU to take the challenge, right? I see the Echo trailer. I see that they went back and fixed some things in Echo. I can see like that, you know what, that should make our rated R movie. I understand why they keep rewriting Blade, because they probably got a couple of scripts that just was like, yeah, this is just a comic book movie. It isn't even as interesting as the movie that came out in 98 or whenever the Blade movies came out, right? It's not even as interesting. It's Blade 3, not Blade 1, Blade 2, right? So I think that the challenge, I think that this is a good thing that Martin Scorsese is so loud. As much as it annoys me as a person in the fandom,
Sure.
is it a good thing that they're being challenged to do something different and not Thor, Love and Thunder, or whatever else?
I think it's good for them, for somebody to light a fire underneath them to get them pushed forward. Because DC's not doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
We don't.
Right.
Yeah, they're not doing it
Never
whatsoever. So they don't have
Yeah.
really any competition. So
Yeah.
it coming from the other directors and actors and stuff like that out there, if it causes them saying something that to put a little fire on them,
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think Disney's still good in the long run, but there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with putting a little, little heat to them.
I'll challenge you a little bit. I think they do have competition. It's not DC, but it is Invincible and it is the Boys universe. People are getting their comic book feel from Invincible. People are getting their comic book feel from the Boys universe. They're seeing, okay, yeah, we get it. He can fly. He can do this thing. But what's the story?
Right.
And it's an adult story. It's not a kid story anymore because those kids are grown. I can tell you right now, my 9-year-old, and I don't think this is an issue for the MCU, but my 9-year-old does not care about Marvel. He's not checking for Marvel. I mean, he'll go see Spider-Man. He loves Spider-Man, right? And he loves Miles Morales and all that. But it's not the first. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is his thing. Pokemon is his thing. You know what I'm saying? He's into manga. He's getting into that. So, like, he's already watching, not necessarily Yu-Gi-Oh!, but like the manga he watches is already challenging him from a story perspective.
Sure.
So that's the way to go now. So I would say that they do have competition. And that's why Echo is coming out. That's why Daredevil is coming out.
I think that there is a couple of things. Real world. One, and we talked about this the other day, Sin and I had jokes. So one of the things that happened in Marvel is that they gave Kevin Feige a new position. He is no longer the person who's just leading the movies. He's also leading the comics. Okay?
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah.
There is competition. When it comes to the movies, not really, right? But when it comes to streaming services and the hearts and minds of people, there's always competition. Because if I'm going to sit down and spend 2 hours watching anything Marvel, right, I could be playing Spider-Man on my PS5. Right? I could be playing Call of Duty. I could be playing Madden, right? So there's any number of things that I could do instead of do anything that has anything to do with reading a comic book or what, you know what I mean? Now, having said that, Marvel, the position that they're in, when you talk about them needing the hearts and minds of younger people, is the thing that has kept them winning for so long, right? So we've had a lot of conversations about how DC's biggest problem is that they can't decide if what they're doing is for children or if it's for adults, and they can't find a happy medium, right? Does somebody like Harley Quinn belong in stores for little girls to pick up? When you actually go and you read her stuff, would you say that's okay for a child? Here's what I think the difference is. You brought up manga. You brought up, your son being into, getting into manga, getting into anime, getting into things like that. When Sin and I were kids, young adults, right? We were watching anime, and we enjoyed it because it was animated and they were cartoons, but they felt like adult stories, right? They were adult stories. They dealt with adult situations, and people died. You know what I mean? People had sex. People, like, all of the things, all those things that happen. And as the American population gets the Western population gets introduced to more things like that are an animated, an animated thing, but have very adult themes, like an Invincible or like The Boys, right? Then it becomes, this isn't just for kids anymore. This isn't just, matter of fact, this might not be for kids at all. That's a very dangerous line to have to tread if you're Disney. When you start saying, okay, we're going to update the app now, and now there's an option on there for you to put a PIN code in case your child decides to watch Deadpool, because you didn't have to worry about that before, and we prided ourselves on being family-friendly, family-focused. Well, now they've got to increase. When you talk about diversity isn't just racial, and it's not just gender, but it is also age. It is maturity. right?
Yep.
That's a lot of what diversity is. My
Yep.
taste in all the content that I watch is exactly that. It is extremely diverse. I love hyper violent John Wick all day. Let's do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
However, I am just as excited about watching like Tom and Jerry. Like I want to see
Yeah.
slapstick
Yeah.
comedy, whatever.
Yeah.
They have that tough job of walking that line, right? And figuring
Yeah.
out what it is. And I think when you see them do things like Star Wars stuff, but it's all Japanese animation companies doing
Yeah.
it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's test this diversity out. Let's see how this falls with our audience. Let's see where they land. Can
Right.
we do this, right? Can we
Right.
introduce things within the MCU that aren't for everybody because not everybody likes a spy thriller? They
Right.
want the big action thing. Can we introduce something that isn't as big and crazy superhero wise, whatever, but is more like the Eternals?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And should be nominated for an Oscar, but
Right,
isn't
right.
because it's, you know what I mean? It's
Because
superhero.
it's a superhero movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
that push, that
Mhm.
Scorsese, like, this isn't cinema. He's absolutely wrong about whether something is
Yeah.
cinema versus not being
Right.
cinema, right?
Right.
It is his definition of what it is,
Yeah.
but that's like accusing Marvel of making the same movie and over again when Martin Scorsese makes the same movie over and over again, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So but it doesn't change the fact that there's a diverse group of people who want to see that too, and that there is space for both, right?
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
I'll make sure I
Absolutely.
send you. There's a link I want to send you. There's a thing going around right now. It's on YouTube.
Mhm.
Really great video. It's a 4-part video about how right now there's a big thing in Hollywood about specifically saying everything's practical, no CGI, no CGI, no
Mhm.
CGI, right? That's a big push. And that is really a thing that seems to be formatted to push back against your MCU,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
superheroes flying around or whatever.
Mhm.
However, it's got a brilliant breakdown of like the last Top Gun movie, right? Maverick.
Mhm.
Crazy. Go watch any promotion on it. No CGI, everything's practical, whatever. However, no CGI in those movies actually means invisible CGI because literally every
Yes.
plane in that movie is CGI.
It's CGI. The mountains are
Backgrounds are
CGI.
all CGI.
Yeah.
The mountains are
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
CGI, right?
Yeah.
So did they shoot a lot of it practically inside actual planes? Yes, but then they literally put markers on them, took them out,
Yeah.
and redid
Yeah.
them all in CGI. The movie is
Yeah.
full of CGI.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the industry is, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you are on top of it, just to, to put a button on the real world aspect of it, right? When you're the top dog and you've been running things for 5 of the 10 years at least, right? We can go the whole 10 years of the first couple phases of the MCU, but let's just go be fair and say the 7 of those 10 years, you were the top dog. Your movies were making $1 billion. You were crushing everything. And Martin Scorsese probably made a Oscar level movie, but it didn't make any money. These movies didn't make money, and now the industry is kind of jealous of you, right? And now they start to say things that don't make sense, like let's not have CGI, which makes no sense. But that comes from that jealousy, sure. But I also think that, like you said, like understanding that your audience is now diverse. That when I saw Miss Marvel, I watched like 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. Funny enough, Miss Marvel has one of my favorite MCU moments of all time. Y'all know what I like, so you know what happened at the end of it. So I geeked up. But I watched like 2 episodes of that one and quickly realized it's not for me.
Not for me.
This is a Nickelodeon. This is like iCarly or something, and that's cool. That's perfectly fine. She-Hulk, I don't enjoy She-Hulk at all, but I can accept that She-Hulk isn't for me.
Sure.
I can accept that, right? So part of it is the audience having to understand not everything going to be for you. The more the MCU grows, there's going to be certain things. Werewolf by Night, things like that may not be for someone. And I like it. I've always liked the X-Men. Y'all know this because I've been on your show a bunch of times. I'm an X-Men apologist. I'm a Fox X-Men apologist, except for the ones that are true crap. Right? I watched Wolverine. I watched Wolverine Origins last night with my wife, and I just. It's a terrible movie.
You did that to yourself, huh?
Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. Speaking of special effects and CGI,
Oh.
Okay. Let me backtrack. But I've always liked their films because they were just a bit more adult. Just a bit, right? Not necessarily comparing it to the MCU, comparing it to other comic book movies that were coming around, not The Dark Knight, right? They were a bit more adult. Their themes were a little heavier, and then you do get like a Logan or the Wolverine that were like heavier movies, right? You get a Days of Future Past, it has comedy and all that in it, but also it's like it's a heavier film. And I like the MCU movies that are a little bit heavier, right? Black Panther is a very feel-good movie, but it also has like some serious themes in it, right? Winter Soldier is my favorite, or one of my favorite MCU movies, because I mean it's a spy thriller, it's Jason Bourne, it's that good. So it's always offered that. I just think that they got away from it just a tad. I think that honestly, especially with the Thor character in Guardians, I think they took the Guardians and Thor theme, the Taika Waititi Thor theme, the Thor tone, and the Game of Thrones. Wow, Guardians of the Galaxy tone, and put it across the whole MCU. It became a comedy as opposed to, all right, well, where are the serious themes? Now, I think that the best point that's made is the fact that, yes, a lot of this stuff, the pandemic set everything back. I can tell you straight up that the Captain Winter Soldier, I'm talking about the Winter Soldier TV show,
Yeah.
literally had a whole plot line taken out of it.
Right.
Yep, we talked about that during our Spoiler Boys episode. Yeah, we was like, the whole time something just seems to be missing.
Yeah,
Showing off.
Plot line stripped out of it about a pandemic, about a virus that they were going to spread, right? Okay, WandaVision, as great as it was, actually had whole scenes taken out of it because they couldn't finish filming because of the pandemic. So I think that from the real world standpoint, we do have to kind of take it easy on them a little bit. They're just starting to recover, and Gage, you said it best, and they're going to be set back again. Mm-hmm. Who knows when the Fantastic Four is going to come out, right?
Who knows when we see White Vision? Yeah, we're still wondering what's up with that.
So let's get to the actual nerd stuff before we wrap this. Let's get to the actual content, right? I think they did introduce way too many new characters during the TV run, and I think I can look at the multiverse. And one more quick point about the competition. Everyone's doing the multiverse, by the way. It's like Bemo went out in Hollywood and say, this year we're doing multiverse films, okay? Yep. And the problem was a lot of those films, because they weren't slow walking it like Marvel, nailed their multiverse. This is what the multiverse is. This is how it works. Invincible's doing the multiverse right now.
Multiverse, bro.
Okay, so it's tough. All right.
Yep.
That to the side. I do think that they introduced too many characters over the past couple of years. You mentioned White Vision. You know, where's Ironheart going to play into this? Where's this character? Where's that character going to play into this? And I'm gonna just say it straight up. I think that they got a little too caught up in, we can introduce this smaller character. Well, not smaller, because if you're a comic fan, White Vision is not a small character, but I feel like they got these big giant bazooka guns just sitting in the vault. And it's not just the X-Men, it's the Fantastic Four. It was Daredevil, and they finally got Daredevil in it. You know what I mean? Punisher, they finally announced it. Punisher. Like, I kind of felt like as a fan, like, all right, it's great. I'm getting Agatha, that's what's up. I'm getting Echo, cool word. But God, when we go give me the big Colossus? When you give me Dr. Doom? When you gonna give me, like, you got these big giant nuclear bombs, you're not using them? Am I being impatient?
I'm enjoying what they're doing right now. Just these are a lot of characters I don't know of. I wasn't familiar like you, Adam. All I've read was X-Men growing up. So now we've crossed over after Endgame. We've crossed over to the point that it's all new to me. I wasn't reading Daredevil. I wasn't reading, all these people they're showing. So I get to learn through watching the shows, and when we have our Spoiler Boys conversations, I get to learn about them. So I enjoy it right now because it's something new for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know those big guys are out there, and when I see Dr. Doom show up, I can finally sit in the theater like, I know that guy. This is about to be a problem. You know what I'm saying? But when they show what was the one we talked the last group one they did with everybody that didn't do so well? Eternals. Yes, like that end cut scene, like with Black Knight but I don't know nothing about Black Knight. Yeah, like I saw people get excited. It's like, okay, apparently this is something I'm missing right here. But we get home, we talk about it, and they break it down. Like, okay, but I'm cool with where we're at right now. Like I said, we're still building. It's still early, so.
I'm being impatient, Gage.
Nah, Nah, I don't think you're being impatient. I really don't. I think that the
Mm,
problem is that um as comic book reader, like if you grew up reading these comics, right?
yeah.
When you walk into a comic book store, you know all of it is available to you, but you still only
Yeah.
buy and pick up the books you read, the ones
You
you
want?
want,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like I read all the X-Men stuff. I was a huge X-Men fan. You know what I mean? Coming up, when I bought my comics, I bought Spider-Man, I bought X-Men, and when there
Mm-hmm.
was a crossover event, I bought other stuff. But I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't buy. I bought almost anything. I bought X Force, X Factor. You know what I
Yeah.
Yep.
mean? But like, I didn't
Yeah.
buy Avengers. I didn't buy Iron Man. I didn't
Yeah.
do. I love Hulk, but like,
I
so the
didn't.
thing
Yeah.
is, these stories existed,
Yeah.
but you could choose whether you
Yeah.
wanted to follow them or read them or not. You could walk into the comic book store and just be like, I
Yeah.
want this one, and this one, and
Yeah.
walk out and read your books and come back next month and just get the next piece of it, right?
Yeah.
In this case, you are forced to wait for
Mm-hmm.
them, and
Yes.
you are forced
Mm-hmm.
to deal with whatever characters they give you. And I do
Yeah.
believe that part of what's happening is they are trying to put a comic book approach to
Yeah.
what the MCU is. So
Yeah.
that loss of like luster, where like you feel like if you didn't watch the last MCU movie, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to, but you certainly should before you watch the next one. I
Yeah.
don't think that is the case anymore. When you read
Mm-hmm.
comic books, you know there are things that are happening that are canon events in a book you're not reading. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're not going to reference it in a book you are reading, right?
Yeah.
You may never
Mm-hmm.
see that character. Doesn't mean you're not going to hear about the event, right?
Right.
And that might make you go back and pick up that book or
Yeah.
go get, whatever, right? But I do honestly believe that they are taking an approach now that says, just like our books, not everybody reads all our books, because who could afford that, right?
Right. Right.
Not everybody has Disney Plus. Not
Yeah.
everybody has Hulu. We're going to introduce characters that you haven't seen before. They're going to be on Disney Plus. If you have it
Yeah.
and you watched it, good for you. If you have Disney Plus and you didn't watch it, I mean, it'll be there when you get there. But we're
Right.
going to put this character or information about something that happened in this She-Hulk show, in
Yeah.
this Moon Knight show. There are going to be references in the Marvels that you may
Yeah.
or may not understand. It will not
Right.
impede your ability to enjoy the movie if you want
Yeah.
to, but it's not necessarily for you. So when they
Yeah.
decide I'm doing a Moon Knight season 2, they have to know not everybody ASIN. Moon Knight was a straight joke for us
Mm.
because
It
we never
was.
read Moon Knight, right? We would make
Right.
fun. They doing
Me
Moon
either.
Knight? Get out of here.
Yeah.
They just think they can take anybody and make them. So if
Yeah.
you watch the show and you enjoyed it, great.
Yeah.
There's something for you. There are new characters
Mm-hmm.
they introduce, and when season 2 comes out, it will
Mm-hmm.
be there for you. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't watch it, whatever, right? You know why? Because there's something else you're watching on Disney Plus, and you still paid the monthly fee. They're not getting
Yep.
more
Oh yeah.
money out of you because you watched one show
Yeah.
versus another. You
Yeah.
paying the same fee, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a built-in thing, right? The idea of doing subscriptions is what they want you to do with comics. We
Yeah.
want you to have a subscription. Pick this book. This the book you read. That's cool.
Yep.
Have a subscription. Pay for it every month. Come pick up. Go to your local comic book
Yep.
store. We'll
Yep.
mail it to you. Whatever
Yep.
it is, and you
Digital
stay on it.
version.
Then we
Yeah.
mention this little thing in there. We throw an ad in here for this other thing that you might like if you like
Mm-hmm.
such and such. That's what they're doing. And I
Yeah.
honestly think it's one of the most brilliant things that nobody sees coming because it's already the way they do business. It's
You want to
already
know
the way
why?
they do business.
You want to know how you should know it's working?
Why?
Because I did not like Captain Marvel, the first movie. And it wasn't because I hate Brie Larson and like the movie just wasn't for me, right?
Sure.
I saw the first one because I needed to know what was going to happen in Infinity War. Was it between Infinity War and Endgame? No, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So I need to know what was going to happen in Endgame, right?
Mhm.
Cool. Now I want to see it because they keep teasing X-Men shit.
Mhm.
Keep teasing that. And now I'm going to.
They did it in Miss Marvel, right?
Right. I just told you.
It's
And
already
I
Mhm.
did
there,
not.
right?
I
I know
watched
you
two
got
episodes.
goosebumps.
Yeah, bro. I watched 2 episodes. I can tell you the 3 most exciting, besides the Spider-Man, No Way Home to the side, which was the most exciting film since Endgame, right?
Mhm.
The most exciting feelings I've had in MCU was on Super Bowl Sunday when they did the trailer for Doctor Strange, right, in Multiverse. And I heard Patrick Stewart. I was
Mhm.
sitting with my brother-in-law. We was watching. I was like, wait a minute. I just heard Patrick Stewart.
So that
Okay.
means,
Okay, and I still don't think they should have teased him in that trailer. I think they should have. I think I should have went to the movie and been like, "What
had it
the?"
that way.
Okay, same way when Reed Richards walked out of there, right? Sorry if you haven't seen that movie yet. My audience don't care about spoilers. The second most exciting moment I had was at the end of a show I did not care about. Someone told me, "Hey, yo, you need to watch the end of Miss Marvel." Okay, check out the end of Miss Marvel. I watched the episode, did not enjoy the episode. It was weird looking, but cool. One for me, show one for me. But at the end, when they hit that, I said, "Oh God!" I thought it was super brilliant to make her a mutant. You know what I mean? I just think it's smart, right? Cool. And now I'm having this kind of exciting moment because someone hit me to the what's coming. Have y'all know about this? The what's coming next thing and all that with the X fade and all that. And then I'm not going to spoil this for anyone that wants to see the movie that may be listening. Apparently, there's rumors. Okay, there's rumors about stuff that's been added, and I'm excited about that. That's to your point. Now I'm going to see a movie that I probably wouldn't rush to the theater to see, but now I want to see if that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I'll be blown, but you got me there, right? And if it does happen, now it keeps me invested in the MCU because I know my favorite characters are coming. And I already, even without that, I know they're coming because I've seen Deadpool pictures that they put out. I've seen Wolverine in the suit. I know mutants are coming. I know they're there. So, okay, I think that's a smart way to do it. And I do think that I do agree that it's a long game and not the quick game. It's a long game. Like, okay, we're going to tease this, tease that, keep you involved. You may be into Blade. Sim mentioned earlier, like, okay, there's a Blade tease at the end of Eternals. Okay, you went to Eternals to see, all right, Chloe's on whatever. But now you're getting a Blade tease. Cool. Now you're getting Guardians of the Galaxy tease. You're getting the Ghostly Guardians. You find out, but Star-Lord is still around. It works. And it's cool. I don't think it's the end of the world to kind of put a button on this company.
Yeah. I was not supposed to do that.
Just to start to wrap up this conversation. I don't think it's the end of the world for the MCU at all. I do think that a lot of people were a little filled with glee to see that there was some chinks in the armor of this big bad knight that's been just whooping everyone's ass for the past decade. So I think that when a Variety article comes out, for many reasons, the anti-diversity folks, the anti-John Majors folks, the anti-MCU folks, all got a little something out of that to go. And the pro-union folks, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I got a little bit something out of that to go, yeah, you know what I mean? That's right. And some of that is right and some of that is silly, obviously. We've been through it. But I don't think that the MCU is in shambles and anything that I think that you guys' terms in flux is the perfect way to put it. And I personally think, just to give my final thoughts, you all can give yours after this. I personally think that it's a good thing for them to be challenged. I think it's going to make, we've already learned about Marvel Spotlight, which I think is a great idea. A great idea. Like, okay, let's get the mature take the Netflix stuff and put it on Disney Plus. Great, we loved it. Just do it over. You can have your silly, you can have your kiddie, you can have your in-between. You can satisfy a lot of people if you just take your time and do it right. And so I think they're on that path, and I'm encouraged by it. What you guys think?
I'm here for the long haul. I'm here for the full ride. That's the type of person that I am. Once I fall in love, like with a property, like good, bad, whatever, I'm riding it all the way till the wheels fall off. So whatever Marvel puts out, I'm watching it. Like I've been dedicated all this time. I loved that first saga. That run was amazing. I'm looking forward to see where this one ends up. Mm-hmm. But that's just the type of person I am. Like, I know a lot of people fell off Walking Dead. I love it. I still watch it to this day. Like it's still one of my favorite things. I'm just, once I'm locked in and invested,
you're loyal.
I'm loyal. I know a lot of people hate, don't like Fast and Furious. Whatever. I love it to death. Like it's my thing. I genuinely do. Like,
yeah.
So that's just me. I'm here. Marvel's got me. So
yeah. I mean, look, I think that they're making really smart decisions. I think that the I mean, personally, I think they're going to be just fine. I don't necessarily think we'll see numbers all the time like we're used to seeing, right? But I think that there is something smart about kind of spreading it out, spreading it thin, right, and reaping the numbers where you can get them. Look, you didn't really like Miss Marvel. It didn't hit for you as a show. It hit for me as a show, but I think it hit for me as a show because I'm a father who knows what it's like to have teenage daughters.
Yeah, yeah.
Your daughter's a baby. I think that show might be very different for you.
If I had
right? If you were watching it with a different set of eyes, that's another thing that happens to hit with that diversity level. That, like, for me, I watched a lot. Listen, let me just tell you something from father to father, bro. You're going to watch a lot of stuff that you're not interested in. You're going to learn to like. I've watched all that. Cheetah Girls, High School Musical, like all of that stuff. Like all of it. And it's ingrained in me. It's part of my life. It's part of who my kids are. And I was happy to have them watch stuff. And to see somebody diverse that I feel like looks more like my kids, my girls. You know what I'm saying? To have girls that are going through teenager, having had kids that went through those early stages of high school and kind of knowing what that flux was like that show hit differently for me than it probably did for a lot of other people, in the same way that, like, when I watched The Lion King as a teenager, when it came out, was very different from when I watched it after I was a parent. Same thing with Toy Story, right? Watching Toy Story, as just somebody going on a date or hanging, whatever. Watching Toy Story as a parent is so different. And you can't wrap your mind around what those things are, right? But the people who are writing these properties, they know, right? They get it. And they know that there's an audience out there where somebody might sit down as a parent and a child and watch something together. I'm so excited about X-Men 97. I don't know what to do with myself, right? You know what I'm saying? And, like, I can sit down and watch it with my adult children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I can also go back and be like, nah, but this is because it's there on Disney. So, like, they got me.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I watched on Disney Plus was X-Men, the old X-Men cartoon. Now, I think that's an excellent point, man. I think that's an excellent point. Diversity, honestly, that was the most important thing I wanted to talk about, get to in this conversation, and I'm glad we got a great definition of diversity, because diversity doesn't have to just be about sexual orientation or skin color. It's a big part of it, obviously, right? Because that's where those different stories come from. Kamala Khan's story resonates from her ethnicity and her religion and her culture. You know what I mean? Spider-Man,
her age.
And her age, just like Peter Parker's.
She's a Peter Parker. Like, that's another reason why I think I liked it. She's like a Peter Parker for the MCU that sort of didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
You get to see them go through that change. Yeah. Like, we didn't see him get his powers. He had them already in the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with it 100%, man. I love it. I love it. Before we go, I got to say, loading snacks, man. I had you guys on here because you all are the best show when it comes to tapping into this culture, this nerd culture, geek culture, whatever you want to call it. You guys are the best at it. I don't say that because y'all my homies from way back. I say it because I believe it. All right. Okay, and this audience, oh man, listen, I mean it, man. And so we, you all have been on the show before, but it's been a minute since you were on the show. So before we go, let them know, because the one thing about loading snacks, sometimes I can't even keep up with all the stuff. Y'all always on or an event. Y'all got a weekend long stream happening. You know what I mean? Y'all got 1,000 shows. You got product reviews. You got movie reviews. You got video game reviews, wrestling reviews. Y'all do it all. Let the people know what's up, man. What's going on with loaded snacks?
I mean, the easiest way to find everything that we're doing is we have a Beacons link. You can just look up Loaded Snacks on Beacons. Everything is there. Our wrestling club, our anime club, our movie club, weekly, everybody we've had on the show, we have their stuff on there. Like, the Beacons page is the best way to track down everything we have and what we have going on. That's honestly the best way to do it. But yeah, we have a weekly show every week. Loaded Snacks Weekly every Tuesday at 8:30. We go live, talk about things happening in pop culture. Every Thursday in the Discord, I host this thing called Thriller Park. We watch horror, suspense animes together. We watch a few episodes a week. We're starting a new one this week called Summertime Rendering. I am so excited for this. I've been waiting for this for months to watch. So excited. But yeah, we do those every week, and we constantly have spoiler boys popping up whenever something Marvel pops up, DC, just pop culture stuff. We're both like doing something for Invincible. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. We just got to talk the logistics of that. Pretty sure we're doing the spoiler boy for the Marvels, so keep a lookout for that. That'll be coming. And our finale spoiler boys will be up next Monday for Loki. Nice. Yeah, like I said, biggest link. Find everything that we're up to. Everything we're doing.
We'll be at Ocean City Comic Con December 9th. We're doing a panel. Look, you know how these panels go for us, Adam, whenever we do the top 10 something. We're doing the top 10 movie franchises of all time, bro.
I love it.
We're doing that live at a panel at Ocean City Comic Con in Ocean City December 9th. Man, Ocean City is beautiful when there's nobody there. You should come out.
Yeah, for real.
It's dope. It's dope.
Peaceful. Peaceful.
Yeah.
Yo, top 10 movie franchises.
Oh yeah.
Top 10 movie franchises of all time. That's
almost done with my list.
Huh?
I'm almost done with my list.
Okay, that's kind of incredible.
Almost done with my list.
I'm into that one, man. Yeah, man. These guys do it all, man. They stay busy. And the most impressive thing, y'all was busy through the pandemic too, which was like really, really impressive, man. Y'all do your thing. I'm so proud of y'all, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It was as always, it was like a last minute request. Y'all always come through for you.
So good.
Yeah, but I really do. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Anytime, bro. Love you. Love what you're doing, bro. Yeah. Anything we can do to support.
Appreciate it, bro. All right, man. Big shout outs to Sin. Big shout out to Gage, man. Remember, Loading Stacks. Check them out, man. Just put Loading Stacks in your browser. It'll pop up. They do so much, man. They're so incredible, okay? At the recording of the show, the Marvels is not out. I'm actually going to see the Marvels, I think, either tonight or tomorrow night. I'll let you guys know what I think about the Marvels on one of my socials, man. I'm excited about it. Like I said, man, I think the biggest lesson I took from this is that like what you like, enjoy what you enjoy. Don't worry about what other people think about things, man. Sometimes I even need to be reminded of that, okay? I even need to be reminded of that ultimately, if I like something, it doesn't matter if it's the most popular thing. It's something I like and something I enjoy and something that's good for me, my mental health, and just for joy and fun, man. Joy and fun are important in life, man. We're going to get one of these, man. You got to enjoy yourself, okay? And with that being said, remember, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, right? Click that subscribe button. Click the little bell. Turn on your notification. Like the video. Share the video. Do that for your boy, man. It's vitally important, man. I'm building this channel. I'm finally putting like a real focus on this channel. I hope to get to 500 subs very, very soon. You guys can help me do that, okay? I'm trying to get to 500 subs. You can help me do that, all right? By following those instructions, all right? If you want to listen to the podcast version of the show, you can do that. Go to your favorite podcasting platform, all right? Subscribe, rate, and review. Do that for your boy. It helps out. Appreciate that, all right? Follow me, MSR_Adam, MSR_Adam. That's my social. Click the link tree. You can find all the Butler Did It stuff right there, including my TikTok as well. All right. Remember to mind your mental health. Do that. Mind your mental health. Vitally important. Mind your mental health. Okay. Mind your physical health, especially you black men out there. Take care of yourselves, man. Mind your physical health. Watch what you eat. Get out there, get some exercise. You know what it is. You know what to do. Okay. Most importantly, the most important thing you could do, because it embodies all of this, is to remember and never forget to be great. I'm up out of here. Peace.